privatize the U.S. Postal Service or turn it over to private companies? Will you aggressively fight not to privatize education, which is privatized in the form of charter schools, and many of them now are becoming for-profit schools and possibly listed on the New York Stock Exchange?
Who's up, Bill?
And right now, that question goes to Steve Williams.
Nice try.
Is that all right? All right.
That's right.
Well, let me tell you this. I will absolutely oppose privatization of the Postal Service and of our schools.
I just want, Steve, if I can interrupt.
Yeah.
There was another portion of that, and it's been kind of made famous by a statement by Donald Trump. Veterans Administration, he talked about, some of his people talked about privatization of that. So we have a lot of veterans here.
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say something about the Veterans Administration. My father, as I mentioned, is a World War II vet. When he was dying of Lou Gehrig's disease, he was treated by the VA hospital, and they treated him like a king. I'm a big fan of the VA. I'm going to defend the VA to my death. It should not be privatized. All right. Now, the Postal Service, you know, that's a good question, and I'll tell you why. I hear so many folks say every day, well, look, you know, FedEx does it better. UPS does it better. You know, the Postal Service always has to raise their stamps and this kind of thing. Well, you know, what most folks don't know is that the Postal Service is operating with one hand tied behind its back financially. And what do I mean by that? You know what I mean by that, right? Yeah, the federal government demanded and required that the Postal Service set aside $75 billion to pay for retirements going about 75 years into the future. They had to take $75 billion out of their budget today, put it in a lockbox for people who are going to retire, and those people are not yet even born. If UPS and FedEx had to do that, they'd be bankrupt. That's a problem. That's a problem. We need to make it easier for the Postal Service to make a profit. We can't make them operate with one hand tied behind their back. And by the way, if you think that that $75 billion is really in a lockbox for postal workers, yeah. What it is another instance, the federal government's robbing them of money to fund other programs. That's why the Postal Service is struggling, and that's the only reason. If you get rid of that, they will be as competitive, if not more competitive, than FedEx. As one of my Postal Service friends told me yesterday, a lot of what gets shipped by FedEx isn't really getting shipped by FedEx. They're contracting it out to the Postal Service because the Postal Service is better. So it should not be privatized. And as for education, no, that should not be privatized. Absolutely not. And in fact, not only am I against charter schools, but I'm against vouchers. Vouchers are another way to undermine public schools. You know, let's say you get a kid in a public school whose family does okay, but they're just like this short of being able to pay for their kid to go to CBA. Okay? Just this much. And they get that voucher, and that allows that kid to go to CBA. So what you're doing is you're taking all the middle-income kids out of the public schools, and you're leaving the public schools with no money and nothing but the most challenged students. That's a recipe for failure. That's a recipe for disaster. We can't let it happen. So I'm against it.
Thank you very much, Steve. Colleen?
Yes, I too absolutely oppose any efforts to privatize the privatize the post office. I actually don't hear people say that the FedEx does it better or UPS does it better. Actually, I hear folks say that the United States Postal Service does a darn good job of delivering packages and getting the mail to people of this country. So I think that what they're doing is amazing. I will stand behind the work and make sure that not only are we not privatizing, but we're keeping 6-day service, keeping it so that seniors can get medications, so that folks can get bills, so that they're able to go to their post offices and keep them open. So we have the ability for people who need to use their post offices. The billion-dollar fund that they needed to fund, you know, the post office is making a profit. We have to recognize the fact that the stamps went down 2 cents. I mean, this is a great organization, and I will do everything to stand with them to make sure that they're not privatized. When I was with Senator Gillibrand's office, I went down to the picket line a few years ago and fought against eliminating Saturday service. So this is something I have done and will continue to do once in Congress. As far as privatizing schools, my son goes to a city school, actually goes to Ed Smith, he's in 7th grade. I am a product, graduated from Nottingham High School, he will graduate from Nottingham High School, and I am very, very, very supportive of our public school system. I do not support charter schools who are for-profit schools that take taxpayer dollars and take kids out of the schools that my son goes to. They call it creaming, when you take just the best kids and take them out. That takes money away from my kid, that makes the classrooms too large for teachers to handle, that takes teachers' assistants away to take care of the kids that need the attention. And I can't support any school that's in place to make money off of taxpayer dollars that only harm the public schools that are left. So I will do everything I can to make sure that I'm fighting against any for-profit charter schools in this district.
Okay, Eric?
Yes, I think we all know what privatization is about, whether it's schools, Social Security, whether it's prisons. It's about profit. It's about turning an important public service, providing mail, into a profit-bearing opportunity for corporations. That's the function it serves, and we can see it throughout all of what we're dealing with. Education, absolutely. What they both said is correct. I agree, or I say I agree. Maybe we're all wrong, but it's that the Postal Service, we shouldn't be talking about, we should be making the Postal Service available. We should have Postal Service doing banking for the unbanked. They would do it well, they can do it, and it would also be a service to low-income people who get robbed when they have to cash their paychecks or anything else. The prison system, it's a disaster. Part of the reason we have a prison system which is undermining the well-being of low-income kids, African American, Latino, white, but especially African American, Latino, is that for some reason we expanded our systems. And now private companies are in and they benefit from it and they want to keep it expanded. Our prison system is a disaster. It's undermining of human lives. People make a mistake. They do some things that probably white middle-class kids might get out of, and they end up in jail and their lives are ruined. It's a felony, and they're a felon when they come out. The VA, same story. Social Security and Medicare, that's the big golden goal of privatization. It moves money to Wall Street. And that's where we can also take on Mr. Katko. So we've been a little light on him today, but he favors the radical proposals of Speaker Ryan, which include privatizing Medicare, vouchering it, and also the insult to older people of, we won't hurt you, but we're going to hurt people 55 and under. And as if we don't give a damn about our kids and our grandchildren. So I view this as a systematic problem. If the goal is money for private companies, they have an interest in it, and we have to.
Thank you very much.
The problem isn't government. The problem in some programs is bad government at times. We don't want bad government programs. We have good government programs, and we have to build them up and not undermine that system.
Thank you very much, Eric.